Hello, and welcome back to Pod Popper's Place for another Team Tiny Challenge. This month, for April 2023, we are celebrating our birth month. Mine is September, and there are a lot of lovely things that go with September, but one of the sad things that is now associated with September is September 11th. So for my birth month, I want to celebrate America and remember how great it is.
So I recently did a craft room makeover and I can't find my watercolor paper, so I'm not sure what I did with it. So what I want to do is with watercolors, but we're just going to have to wing it because I don't know where they went. So I'm going to figure out where the placement on this will be and try to put America the Beautiful in the center of that. I want this to stand out, so I'm going to stamp it with Stays On first.
Then I also stamped it in Versamark and then heat embossed it with some clear embossing powder. After stamping America the Beautiful and heat embossing it, I heat embossed with Versamark and clear embossing powder with the United States on top of that as well.
All right, so we have our United States heat embossed and clear, and I cut out a sheet of this blue. This is Stampin' Up! Blue, and I did use a metal shim when I cut this out, just so that all the stars would pop out really easily. So this is going to be part of our background on top of our silver paper, and this is why I wanted to use watercolor paper, because I want to do kind of a watercolor technique for our red, white, and blue part. So hopefully our paper works. And I've been using this cheap dollar store glass trivet for doing messy things, just so I don't get it all over my glass mat and then not get everything wiped off, and then I end up ruining a project. So I'm glad that dark mark got on the blue end though, because I can cover it up and hide it. So yeah, I definitely got the blue darker than the red. So it kind of gets in our areas where the Versamark probably didn't get, because I had already done America the Beautiful in there. Let's see if I can get this a little more red. I watered it down just a little bit too much. So I've gotten all the little stars. Apparently I got some red on here as all over my hands as well. So definitely could have done that a little more cleanly. But I did cut a little strip of paper here just to get some more stripes in there. And we can cover up that red really easily. So I'm going to put that on. And then this is still pretty wet. And I'm going to, while it's still wet, I'm going to go ahead and spray it with some of my Perfect Pearls. All right, while I'm waiting for that to dry, I thought of another place where my watercolor paper would be, and lo and behold, I found it. So while my other piece is drying, I am going to do the same process on watercolor paper so we can see the difference. All right, so I used watercolor paper, and the first thing I noticed is, well, I didn't use the Stays On ink, so that might have been a mistake, because I used the VersaFine and stamped and embossed, and it kind of smushed it. You can kind of see the letters aren't nice and clean, and it kind of bled right there. And plus the paper, you know, it's more porous because it's watercolor paper, so it left these bubbles in the heat embossing, even though I decided to do it twice, and that may be why the black led a little bit too, is because I did end up heating it twice. All right, I definitely feel like the watercolors or the inks, you know, look better on the watercolor paper. So I think this one I'm going to spray with some gold shimmer powder, Perfect Pearl shimmer powder this time instead. All right, we definitely get two very different looks here. This is the regular heavy cardstock, and the colors, I did go over it a little bit more than with the water color paper, so it's a little bit darker, but and you can see the, hopefully the shimmer, but the white is white, and it's not like this where it's because of the watercolor paper, it's more antique-y looking, but you can see the difference in this paper's much still wet, but you can see the difference in how America the Beautiful looks. They're both not quite super clear. This one is better though, and that may be because of the VersaFine, or excuse me, the Stays On ink rather than the VersaFine, but most likely it's because of the watercolor paper just being more porous. So while I'm waiting for the white one, the original one, to dry, because it is super wet, this is already dry. It is warped, but it is dry. I decided I'm not going to use the silver for this one because I sprayed it with the gold. You can't super see it, but it is, you know, on there. So I wanted to use gold foil instead. So I'm using an embossing folder with these stars. And I don't like that you can, you know, see the edges, so I'll probably trim that off. And then I'm going to take my little sand eraser. You're not going to see, you know, a ton of these stars, but I kind of like how this is like, you know, got this antique-y kind of old world feel to it. So I'm gonna kind of go around and scratch off a lot of the gold on our stars. To put this up on some foam tape, partially because I just love foam tape, and partially because this is so warped, the foam tape will help it kind of lay down better and kind of flatten it out. See, it looks much flatter on there. So I put this on a blue frame, and then I will put it onto a card base, and this is pretty much done, but I do have this beautiful blue platinum confetti from This Calls for Confetti, so I think I might add a few of those because it is September and it is the Sapphire, and then I will have a picture of this card finished when at the end of the video when this has had time to dry. So that is all for my video. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to see all the creators in the Team Tiny April 2023 hop, and I hope you will come again. Bye.